He had to get away from that place, from Japan itself. It was as if he were walking down hell itself, and it's starting to toy with his mind and emotions. Ron passed a row of burnt houses and began to feel very dizzy all of a sudden. His head spun when he turned to face a row of burnt houses. Of what he saw sent a wave of terror rushing through him. Ron saw the burned, walking corpses of various victims from the nuclear blast coming out of the remains of their homes, and they were heading right for him. They were all charred, burnt, mutilated like the man near the store just moments ago, only some of them looked far worse and horrifying. Ron saw 2 female victims with burnt-off faces, entrails hanging out and moaning very angrily as they stumbled towards him. Several others were missing arms or parts of their skin. They all looked like zombies, and they also looked very angry and eager to taste Ron's flesh. Ron began to panic as the burned zombie suddenly began speaking. "You left him to die," the burned corpse of a woman rasped. "Coward!" a burned child corpse snarled as he stumbled towards Ron, with his left arm missing and the bones of his ribcage visible. No, stay away! Get away from me!" Ron yelled in horror, then beginning to run in the opposite direction, but he was quickly swarmed by more burnt, horrified zombie corpses. They all surrounded him in a circle, and they all had eye sockets filled with what Ron could only describe as pure hatred and bloodlust. They were all mocking Ron, calling him a coward, wishing death upon him. He tried to find an opening, but there was no way out. Ron realized that he would have to fight his way out if he were to get out of this alive. Yet he had a hard time tapping into his mystical monkey powers due to the enormous wave of terror, sorrow, and regret flowing through him. "You were a coward. Even though that poor soul was suffering, you still held back and left him to suffer even further. Will you ever learn at some point that some lives must be taken for greater good? When will you learn to no longer hold back and use your full power? Know that suffer of others you love and you care about, only to be prolonged as you continue to hold back. If you desire to live, you mustn't hold back. We all suffer because of you. Look what happened to us." The zombified corpse hissed and advanced further towards Ron. "No, I didn't know. Please, I didn't know!" Ron pleaded and yelled, but the zombies refused to listen. "The souls of the innocent don't call for your blood. They will subject you to fate worse than death if you continue to hold back. Stop holding back. Give in to the darkness. You have tasted it before, and you are the only one to protect yourself and the ones you love. Give in to the darkness. Kill them all." Shut up. Leave me alone!" Ron shouted, sinking into his knees and grabbing his head. "You're weak, and you know it, and you know you desire that power. Stop holding back, you pathetic coward. Give in to the darkness. Give in to the red rage." "Red rage," Ron hissed as he trembled. "You tapped into its power, and you desired it even further. Stop denying what you know is true. You desire the red rage. You desire the taste of its power. It will give in what you want. Give in to the red rage. Give into it, you worthless excuse of a human. You're a weak coward, and you don't deserve the honor of being the master of mystical monkey powers." Ron felt himself trembling with rage as he reflected on everything he had experienced since landing in Japan. The Black Shadow had destroyed half of the island. Yori and Master Sensei were dead along with the other ninjas. Ron refused to show mercy to the poor soul dying from radiation poisoning. He hated the Black Shadow, he hated Ridley, and he hated himself for being all so weak. In that moment of madness, Ron felt his evil power of his mind, claimed to be known as the Red Rage, to break loose. He refused to keep it at bay this time. "No," Ron roared as he quickly stood up, his eyes now glowing bright red as an evil aurora suddenly surrounded him. He blasted the zombies with enormous jets of red lightning, sending them flying to pieces. Ron didn't hold back. As the remain of the zombies suddenly charged at Ron, he spun around towards them and did something he hadn't done until now. Ron unleashed his enormous jets of crimson red fire from his hands, instantly setting the zombies to a flame. They all screamed in agony as the fire melted their charred flesh, burning what remains of them being piles of bone and ashes. And in that moment of madness, Ron thought that he could hear Rufus screaming at him to stop, pleading for him to stop, but he didn't care. The only emotions flowing, though, Ron had moment was a pure, hated, Rage, despair. One of the zombies screamed at him to stop, but he didn't, and jumped on him and tried grabbing him. But Ron spun around and suddenly reached out one of his free hands and froze the burning beast in place. He then levitated the zombie in midair and suddenly caused its head to explode into a pile of bone, blood, and brain matter. As if all hell broken loose, it wasn't over yet. Ron had slowly turned into what looked to be a huge bird-like zombie, flying in the air towards him. Its body was charred and burned as the other zombies, and it looked as if a dragon more than a bird. Its eyes were red as Ron's, opened its mouth wide as if it were to fly and devour him. But instead, the flying monster's mouth fired red beams of energy at Ron, who just barely missed them. In range, Ron spun around as the beast flew past him, shot waves of fire and red lightning at it. Most of them missed, but one of Ron's lightning bolts hit a strange-looking energy shield that surrounded the monster. This only furthered Ron's rage, as the monster then flew back around another pass. He could have sworn it heard it called out to him, but Ron paid no heed to the beast. He fired more jets of red lightning at the flying beast, which it simply hit the energy shield around it. Then the energy opened up its mouth again and fired another beam of energy at Ron. He managed to deflect a few more beams that fired at him with his own energy shield that generated his abilities. But one of them struck in the chest, sent him flying back several feet in the air before slamming into a huge pile of ash and dirt. Ron felt unconscious right there after seeing the creature had landed just a few feet away from him. Yori climbed to safety out of the drain pipe leading to the abandoned fishing shipyards near the seaports. She had spent over half the day crawling through Japan's underground water system treatment in hopes of finding a way to escape the island. Yori knew that staying in Japan wouldn't be safe, with the radiation levels being so high, yet she didn't know where to go at this point. Sensei had told her not to where to go, but to only flee and get as far away from Japan as possible. Upon exiting the pipe, Yori noticed that the area seemed to have been untouched from the nuclear blast, yet she was still worried of the possibility that there may be high levels of radiation in the area. But there was no way to tell how much the radiation was, as all around her, Yori knew that she'd be treading on thin ice if she ever went there. If she ended up infected from the radiation poisoning, she'll die a very slow and painful death. Yori approached the docks, where several fishing boats sat abandoned, and next to the docks was a large work truck with all four doors wide open. Yori passed it as she saw something hang from the outside of the back driver's side and realized it was a Geiger counter. She quickly grabbed it and flipped on the power switch in front of it, hoping it still worked. Yori watched as the power lit up and turned on near the top. Then a green needle began to slowly move up and down the dial, and the unit read how much radiation was in the area. Yori's heart raced when she watched the needle move slowly to the green zone, praying and hoping it didn't move up to the orange or red zone. She knew that if the needle stopped at either spot, she'd be done for. There would be no way Yori would have survived the high levels of radiation. Luckily, though, the needle just stopped a few inches below the yellow zone and was still in the green zone. Yori sighed in relief, realizing that the radiation levels were in the safe zone around the area. Yori continued down to the docks, where she saw a small fishing boat just up ahead and looked safe to enter. She didn't sense any danger as she approached it, yet Yori kept her guard up in case any threats sprang out. As Yori approached the boat, however, suddenly gasped and fell in the enter. She didn't sense any danger when she approached it, but of course, she felt her knees almost dropping the lotus blade from its subcovered in the process. At this point, she sensed the presence of something very powerful and evil emitting from somewhere a few miles away. Yori had no idea what exactly it was or who it was, but she knew whatever it was clearly hostile. Yori had tried reaching out with her ninja senses to try and make out what that was. For a brief moment, she felt a similar presence from the evil one, and from that the evil female ninja could tell. It felt as if the other presence were somehow entwined with the evil one. And this was just the one thing that terrified her the most, because familiar presence Yori felt someone she knew all too well. No, stoppable son, Yori gasped in fear. This presence that she sensed without doubt, unstoppable when Yori peered in deeper and sensed the enormous amount of emotional pain, rage, and hatred coming from him. As Yori reached even further, she realized his evil presence was in fact Ron himself. This sent a wave of fear and terror rushing through the female ninja. Ron had tapped into something unholy, something pure evil, and it seemed to be controlling him somehow. I have to help him, Yori said, then prepared to turn back the way she came, but stopped when she heard a familiar voice called out. No, Yori, the voice urged. Yori spun around to see the glowing white ghost of none other than Master Sensei, standing on one of the wooden planks, leading to another fishing boat. Master Sensei? Yori exclaimed in shock and surprise. Yori, you must not turn back. Stoppable Son is not himself, and if you attempt to confront him, he may strike you down, Sensei warned her. And even if you could, the radiation levels are far too high for you to survive where Stoppable Son currently is. You must flee Japan. In addition to this, you must stay hidden from the world around you. Wait? Hide myself from the public? Why, Sensei? Stoppable-san and Kim-san most likely think I'm dead, Yori said in confusion and shock. There is much more powerful and evil threat out in the world that desired the destruction of not just for our entire clan, but you as well, Sensei explained. This threat is an organization named Black Shadow, and they were the ones who bombed Japan and killed me along with the rest of our clan. How are you even here? And what do you know about this? Yori asked, still confused and shocked by the whole experience. Death is not at the end, Sensei explained. My body may be gone, but my spirit still lives on to another plane of existence for a limited time. Then I shall cross over to heaven itself. As a spirit, I have access to more knowledge and power than I had in the living world, although limited for what I do know to do. This means I am aware of what all occurs here. If that's true, then where is the Black Shadow? Why I must remain hiding? Yori asked curiously. I cannot reveal everything, as I am forbidden to do so, Sensei replied. The God of the universe forbids spirits like him directly from interfering with the affairs of their world. So I am only permitted to tell you what I can. And to answer your question, it is because the leader of the Black Shadow believes you and the rest of the Yamanochi ninja clan to be dead. This man, his name is Ridley Farkas, and he's far more powerful and dangerous than any adversary that you and Team Possible have ever faced in the past. His organization is his factions all over the world, hidden in secret bases that have remained hidden for years. They are the numbers well over the thousands. If you were to reveal yourself to the public, the Black Shadow World organization would eventually catch on and discover one of the Yamanochi Ninja Clan members survived the bombing. This will place you in unconsiderable danger, so you must remain hiding until the time is right for you to resurface. The Black Shadow, does the world know of it? Yori asked. Not as of now, but there was a time about 7 years ago when Black Shadow had been known as a gang of pirates, smugglers, traffickers, and murderers. They were once caught by detained. Their leader escaped into hiding and slowly began rebuilding Black Shadow in secret, operating through secrecy and deception and manipulation. Eventually, this made the most powerful secret criminal organization to ever exist on Earth. Sensei explained, and now Ridley wants to control the world and get what he wants. He plans to wipe out everyone and everyone that believes that can oppose him. Our clan was one of his targets, and now he plans to destroy global justice, then Team Possible. Once Ridley accomplished this, he will then reveal himself to the world and force them to submit to his will, or be exterminated. Black Shadow will only rule the world by fear and terror, but if a certain events I have foreseen occur, then someone far worse than Black Shadow will rule the world. Yori felt fear rushing through every fiber of her being, as she took in everything that Sensei had told her. She would have never thought a threat like this could exist, and the worst part about it was that it was there all along, and the world even knew it was there. The last part Sensei mentioned of a greater threat than the Black Shadow ruling the world concerned Yori the most though. This threat, is he the worse than the Black Shadow? Who or what is it? Yori asked worriedly. That I do not know, Sensei replied. But some events I've also predict that Stoppable Sun may face a horrible fate in the future if they were to pass. That's all about I know. And when my vision of the world is pretty much ruled by a darker force known to me, as I said. I don't know who or what this force is, but I do know that it will be a force more powerful and dangerous than the Black Shadow ever would be. Yori felt her heart sink at the thought of Ron suffering from a horrible fate at the hands of the Black Shadow, and this made her even more eager to help him. Master Sensei, Yori began, if I must go into hiding, where would I go? I will show you the way to the hidden sanctuary deep underneath Japan, where no one else ever hoped to find you. There you will be able to live in peace and in time, hopefully, to a worthy successor and rebuild our clan, Sensei answered. Also, I will teach you how to use the power of astral projection, as I once did in life. With it, you'll be able to communicate with Ron Stoppable. However, you must never reveal your location to him, no matter how much he begs you to. If Ron learned about your location, it could put you in danger, where he would be captured by the Black Shadow and tortured for the location of your whereabouts. Yori felt a slight of moment relief, knowing that she'd be able to tell Ron that she was still alive. But then she suddenly remembered Sensei saying he wasn't himself, and then he also remembered that Ron was in a deep state of rage and emotional pain. Sensei, I sensed that Stoppable Sun was in a horrible state of distress and anger. What happened to him? Yori asked fearfully. Stoppable Sun has tapped into the evil source of power known as the Red Rage, Sensei began in a grave voice. I don't believe he tapped into it intentionally, but his anger, sorrow, and hatred for the Black Shadow somehow allowed him to tap into the Red Rage. It's a very powerful and dangerous source of power that could be tapped into a wielder of mystical monkey powers. He has enough of rage of hatred in his heart. The same could also apply for the hearts fulfilled even though despair and feelings of hopelessness. No, Yuri gasped in horror. I've heard stories of that power. There was once I read about a ninja and warrior ancient times who possessed mystical monkey powers that tapped into the Red Rage after his family murdered by a rival clan. He avenged his family by wiping out the entire rival clan and then went on to doing something horrible things due to being manipulated by the same power he had used to avenge his family. Indeed, Sensei nodded, and I believe it's the same power Stoppable Sun has tapped into just now. Only he didn't do it intentionally like I said. The ninja warrior's story did intentionally for the sake of power. But I believe that it was Ron's sorrow and anger that caused him to tap into the Red Rage. This is the reason I want you to communicate with Ron. I want you to help him train his mind, so that way he can never try and tap into the Red Rage again. Because if he doesn't enough, it will eventually manipulate him to the point of no return, like that ninja warrior in the stories you read. I'll do whatever I can to help him, Yori said confidently. He's one of my best friends I've ever had, and I won't let him become a monster. I know you will, Yori, Sensei replied proudly. You must leave this place, and do not fear for Ron's safety. His friend has already been immobilized and contained him, so he'll be fine for now. I shall show you the way to the sanctuary, where you shall begin your training, and I'll be there to guide you for a certain amount of time. Very well, Yori bowed. Show me the way.